Offensive line in the Big 12. You better be good at pass blocking. But, of course, the run game is big for the better teams as well. And I will start us out by just mentioning that according to Athlons, Oklahoma is the 6th best offensive line in the nation, and they think enough of Iowa State at number 7. They've got them neck and neck, pretty much identical in regards to their quality and depth at offensive line between Oklahoma and Iowa State in their top 10. All right, Jason. Jason's going to run down his top 10 offensive linemen in the Big 12.
So, which is interesting that you mentioned that about Oklahoma. So, just as a precursor, 5 of my top 10 are from those 2 schools. So that kind of is in line with with my thinking as well. So, starting at number 10, and I hope that I don't butcher this name, Obina Eze from TCU, who is a transfer from Memphis, played the last few years with the Memphis Tigers, played in six games in 2018. Played all 14 games in 2019, started all 11 games in 2020 at left tackle. So he'll be a kid that is counted on for TCU to provide that blindside protection from Max Duggan for TCU. So I have Obina Eze at number 10 for Texas Christian.
All right, moving on to number 9, and then I'm going to run through some of the publications and where they stand on some of these players and units as well. Coming up on number 9 in the Big 12.
Number 9, I have Derek Kerstetter from Texas, 5th-year senior, who's a guy that is taking advantage of the extra year of eligibility. Came back, was a senior last year, coming back again this year. Has been one of the mainstays on that Texas offensive line. Has been I believe he's a 4-year starter for the Longhorns. I would say, looking at from a positional unit perspective, Texas at the offensive line probably is their weakest area, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. But Kerstetter is a mainstay there at the center position, who was a honorable mention All Big 12 last year. Should see a little bit of improvement, obviously, this year as well at the center position.
And then let's see, moving on to number 8 from Kansas State.
Number 8, Josh Rivas from Kansas State. Again, he's a kid who has played a lot of ball for Kansas State over the last 3 years. 2020 started each of the first 8 games of the season at left guard, then moved over a little bit. He's one of those kids that could play multiple positions for Kansas State. 2019 played in 13 games in the rotation at guard and tackle, second team All Big 12 in 2019. So he's a kid that certainly could get back into that All Big 12 consideration this year.
Then going to the Sooners and a transfer here at number 7 in the Big 12.
Yeah, number 7, Wanye Morris. It's kind of tough to put a kid there that's not really played it down at the school, but I think that what he was able to put together at Tennessee is, I think, good enough to think that will translate pretty effectively at Oklahoma. 2019 SEC All-Freshman team, started every game. Started 12 of the 13 games for the Volunteers in 2019. Played in 9 of the 10 games last year. Started 5 of those. Started 5 of those at the tackle position. Started 3 more in what they consider their jumbo package as well. So got a lot of snaps over the last couple of years. Only gave up 2 sacks and 195 snaps at the tackle position. So he's a guy that's going to be counted on for Oklahoma to kind of anchor that tackle position.
Yeah, in addition to beating Tennessee twice in the last 5 or 6 years, Tennessee fans won't be too happy with Oklahoma, considering they rated 2 of their best players in particular here in the offseason. All right, at number 6.
Number 6, I have Derek Schweiger from Iowa State. Kind of a tough year a couple years ago. Only appeared in 3 games, and last year, second team All Big 12. He was a former walk-on who actually earned a scholarship last year. Was second part of the left guard of Iowa State last year. They were part of the team that was part of 11 semifinals for the Joe Moore Award. So really good anchor to that left side on the guard position. It is a kid that was a second team All Big 12 selection a year ago.
Yeah, Schweiger at 6'3", 311. Yes, and as you mentioned, has elevated himself all the way as a product of Wisconsin high school football as a walk-on originally to all Big 12 status. All right, at number 5, back to Ames.
Yeah, number 5, I have Trevor Downing. You could flip a coin, honestly, between these two. Could have easily put Schweiger at 5 and Downing at 2, but Downing is a kid that was the second team freshman All-American in 2019. 2020 was looking up for him. Certainly could be a kid that Iowa State was looking at in terms of an All Big 12 type of kid. Unfortunately, had a season-ending injury against Louisiana to begin the season, so he's a kid that Iowa State's really high on it and happy to have back as part of that offensive line group.
All right, as we break further into the top 5, we go back to OU.
At 4, we have Marquise Hayes. It was a guy that really flirted with going to the draft this past year. With Oklahoma lost, a little bit on the offensive line with Creed Humphrey, Adrian Ely. So certainly great news for Oklahoma that he came back. Solidifies the guard position for Oklahoma. He started pretty much every game the last couple of years for the Sooners. Only allowed 2 sacks a year ago and about 416 pass attempts. Pass plays, I said, not necessarily attempts, but only a couple sacks. So he's a guy that has done a great job, everything that I've heard in terms of the weight room, in terms of kind of transforming his body a little bit more just to be a little bit better. So he's a kid that I think could certainly be the best guard in the conference.
And then Texas Tech, not necessarily ranked highly with most of its players along these positional units we've run down, but Dawson Deaton, a good one.
Yeah, so you talk about a kid that has a lot of experience in playing and pass blocking. To your point, as we began, 2018 appeared in all 12 games. He only started 2, but he was a guy towards the end of 2018 that started to become played a little bit more. He started 2 games to end the year. 2019, he was really as a sophomore. He played a lot more than. He was really their top offensive lineman in 2019 in his first year starting. And then last year, team captain, started all 10 games at center, all Big 12 second team. So I think he's a kid that is probably the best center in the league, really coming in. You could make it an argument here with another kid that I have up higher, but those 2 kids will probably be 1, 2 in terms of the best centers in the Big 12 this year.
One appearance out of the Cowboys.
Yeah, number 2, I have Josh Seals from Oklahoma State. Really a little bit like Texas in terms of the offensive line unit was a bit of a weakness for the Cowboys last year. They lose a couple of kids, so a big question mark coming into this season. But Seals is definitely not a question mark. Transferred in last year from West Virginia, started all 12 games for the Cowboys last year. Was named second team All Big 12 a year ago. Played a lot, as I mentioned, at West Virginia previous to that. Will certainly be the best offensive lineman for the Cowboys next year, and it's obviously one of the best in the conference this year.
So according to, that's right, we do have one other player to go, don't we? Don't want to forget the best player in the conference.
That's
all right. There he is.
Yeah, so number 1, I have Colin Newell at the center position for Iowa State. He's a 3-year starter for the Cyclones. In 2018, he was a critical part, kind of paving the way for David Montgomery from a rushing perspective, for 1,000 yards, and really was a big part of that offensive line that really kind of changed the conversation about Iowa State, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Last year was first team All Big 12 at the center position as well. He was a Remington Award finalist last year, led Iowa State to the second best offensive performance that they've had in terms of overall productivity in school history. So I think with him it was pretty clear. there was maybe some questions about him and Josh Shields in terms of the number one guy, but I've got him as my number one offensive lineman in 2021.
Okay. There you have it. Jason Ray's top 10 offensive linemen in the Big 12. And again, we have run through the entire offense, quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. And looking at Athlon's selections, they went 3 deep All-Americas. And Newell is the only player that they've got from the Big 12 along the offensive line on any one of the 3 at second team center. Now, if you look at the all Big 12 team, according to Athlon's, they have Newell at center, of course, Sills, Downing, Hayes, and Deaton along the offensive front on the first team. Their second team consists of Noah Johnson of Kansas State at center, Schweiger, Kerstetter, Connor Galvin of Baylor, and Morris from Oklahoma along the offensive front on the second team. And Athlon's third team, you've got Zach Frazier, West Virginia at center, Easy from TCU along the offensive front, Revis, Kansas State, and Jason's top 10, Doug Nestor, West Virginia, and Hunter Woodward from Oklahoma State. So just another reason why it's pretty solidified that Oklahoma and Iowa State are the 2 best teams in the conference, not just at the skill position players that everybody likes to talk about, but along the offensive front as well. Now, in terms of player ratings, I'm looking at Lindy's, and they've got Colin Newell listed as the 3rd best center in the country. They've got Marquise Hayes listed as the 3rd best guard in the country. And Lindy's also had, I thought there was another Big 12 player. So again, it's a Newell 3rd center and Hayes, the 3rd best guard in the country. And in terms of unit rankings, Athlon's just really rates Oklahoma across the board as the best team in the conference, and Iowa State right behind them. There should be no surprise there. Oklahoma at number 1 along the offensive line, Iowa State 2. Then they've got Texas 3, and probably if they had any kind of a ranking or rating along with the ranking, you would see a considerable drop there with Oklahoma State at 4, West Virginia 5, Texas Tech at 6, TCU 7. TCU's worst unit ranking across the board at the offensive line spot, Kansas State at 8, Baylor 9, and with a dubious distinction, according to Athlon's, I'm sure other people have it different. Well, really, nobody has it different, I'm sure. I'm just kidding. Kansas with the worst unit in the Big 12 in every category.
So I think so I haven't picked up Athlon's, but I know Phil on Phil Steele's, he has Kansas ranked number 10 in every single positional unit in the Big 12 as at last place. So I didn't know if I'm sure Lindy's and Athlon's are the same. Athlon is the same, but yeah, they've got a ways to go.